How do you succeed at writing fiction? I have novels in various categories, but mostly science fiction, translated into more than 20 languages around the world. I'm going to share with you a few capsule pieces of advice that I may expand upon later. First off, it's important to remember that fiction writing, storytelling, is the only absolutely verified form of magic. Magic is the creation of subjective realities in other people's heads. In some magical cultures where the people really believe that pointing a stick and mumbling certain words by a powerful man could cause death, people die because they convince themselves so thoroughly. Now, nobody's asking you to convince somebody to die, but it's important to remember how far back this tradition goes. The shamans and bards who would tell stories by the campfire, captivating people. They were fed, and they passed on the genes that enabled themselves to be fed. The genes that enable, in all cultures, storytellers to survive. So we're going to teach you a few skills about how to utilize this inherited cultural and genetic trait. First off, you live a member of a civilization that has more than just liars and reality twisters and storytellers creating their incantations. It also has science and technology. And these have worked hand in hand. The technology has given us storytelling media like movies and television. But underrated is the fact that we now across this world have several billion skilled technicians called readers whose eyes can scan chains of little squiggles and turn those squiggles into star-spanning explosions, deep human insights, philosophical wonder. Just in the English language, there are about 1 billion skilled technicians who are waiting for your product that will then decrypt from the squiggles into marvels inside their own heads. So how do you create these incantations? Well, you have to learn how to be able to express yourself in the language that you're born in my case, English. You have to learn all the proper skills for being able to string those words together. But I'm not going to go into the details of plot, craftsmanship, all those things, at least not today. Save that for another time. What I'd like to get is the perspective of what your relationship with the reader is. And I'm going to be blunt about it. Your relationship with the reader is sadomasochistic. And you're supposed to be the sadist. Let me explain. What you want is for people to come up to you at conventions, on the street, emailing you fan letters, saying, darn you, I almost got fired because of you. It's what you want. It's the greatest compliment that an author can get. I almost got fired because of you. I almost lost my job. I almost flunked out of a class because you kept me up all night reading when I should have been sleeping, when I should have been resting, when I should have been doing my homework, when I should have been preparing that report, when I should have been feeding the cat, when I should have been feeding my kids, when I should have been making love. The image you want to strive for is thousands of readers out there looking at your book, engrossed, and a sultry voice over the corner saying, honey, and their reaction being, husband, That's what you are aiming for. You want the reader to be so engrossed that when they find out who done it in your book, they'll scream in rage, tear the book in half, throw it out the window, and dive after it. So, how do you get to the point where you can get that kind of incantation? So that your customers get that response, that masochistic self-loathing because they got engrossed, they got suckered in. Do you honestly believe that they won't buy your next book if you achieve that? Well, at the end of every one of my books, you'll find at least 50 names of people who I circulated the manuscript to. Now, I'm a professional now. I know a lot more about writing than I used to. Especially with my first novel, I circulated that one to 60 or 70 people to get the criticism I needed to get better. But 30, 40 critics nowadays, even though I'm a professional, why do I do that? Well, if I can get nothing else from these pre-readers, I try to find out where they were able to put the book down. Even if they're enjoying it, where they were able to put the book down in order to feed the cat, in order to feed the kids, do the homework. If more than 2 people put it down at the same place, I'll tighten that scene. And you get that sort of feedback by circulating it. You also find out what the problems are in people's understanding of the story. Because if you're an accomplished writer, if you're a professional, you're still pushing yourself. You're still pushing at your skills. Still trying more ambitious and challenging things. So, circulating your manuscript and getting the criticism is not only good for a beginning author, but it's also great when you're more advanced. Now, you find out where people didn't understand what you were saying, where people were bored or where they thought it was repetitious. If more than one person notices a problem, then it is a problem. And it's your job to fix it. Often they will offer advice on how to fix it. Take that with a 3-foot pole. Sometimes the advice is good, but it's your job to come up with the solution in your unique artistic way. So, seek the criticism. Criticism is the only known antidote to error. And if you are too shy to get criticism, then this is a problem that you have to overcome. Because otherwise, the path forward will be 100 times as hard. Now, where can you get this criticism? Where can you find this coterie of readers who can help you move along? Well, I did a number of tricks. I joined local workshops. A local bookstore had a clipboard where they were taking names of people who were looking for workshops. When they got a dozen, they called them all up and said, why don't you use our bookstore to hold your workshop? Good for everybody. You might ask a local bookstore. Another technique I used was I took creative writing classes at community colleges. Now, very often, especially toward the end, I could have taught the class better than the teacher. Sometimes the teachers of these classes aren't very good. They don't know very much, and they'll even teach you wrong things. But if you are taking a creative writing class, you get a couple of very useful things. One is a weekly deadline. Next week, come in with 10 pages of a story or a chapter. You do that for 10 weeks, you've got 100 pages. Another thing you get out of it is you get into the rhythm of circulating manuscripts among your other classmates and reading them, offering critiques, getting critiques back. Now, very often your classmates in these creative writing courses won't know science fiction, they won't know the genre that you like. Sometimes they're, quite frankly, clueless. But you will learn to be able to tell when their confusion at a certain point in the story is useful feedback. When they are letting you know something's wrong here, even if they can't pin it down. The other thing you can get out of this kind of class, is 2 or 3 people who are the best in the class. Collect them, collect their names, start your own workshop. Then there are things online, the new era. You can join critters.org, which is a workshop co-op for people exchanging manuscripts and criticizing each other. You can publish your fan fiction on one of the fanfic sites. So there are lots of ways to get the criticism that you need. It's the food and drink that will get you going on your path. And next time I'll talk about some of the other tricks in this wonderful shamanistic, magical, incantatory profession.